Okay, Unit 4 review for the test on Friday. Number 1 says the graph below shows a dashed line on a coordinate plane. A right triangle is drawn. The question is asking which right triangle has a side opposite the right angle with the slope that would lie on a dashed line. Basically, it's asking you which of these answer choices has the same slope as this triangle. That's all it wants to know, because if you have two triangles on a slope line, then they should have the same slope. So I'm going to go through and label these points that they already gave us. It's always x and y, and then this group I'm going to put my 1's on, this group I'm going to put my 2's. And always write down the formula first, so then you can just plug in the numbers that you just labeled. So I've got -10 minus -2, since that was a negative, I have to do minus negative. And x2 is 16 minus 6. So I get -10 minus -2 is -8. 16 minus 6 is 10. And I'm going to have to reduce that. So I'm going to try just dividing both of these by 2 first. And that'll be -4 and 5. So -4/5. Or if you turn it into a decimal, if you just divide those, it would also be -0.8. So either way, however you want to compare it to the ones down here. And then you're going to have to go through, this is going to be the tedious part, is you're going to have to label all of these and use that same formula for each of these answer choices until you find one that matches. So I've got x and y. These can be my 1's, these will be my 2's. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 4 minus 7 is -3. -4 minus -8 is 4. So -3/4 is not the same as -4/5, so that one is out. Same thing on B. I'm going to label them x and y first, then go back and say these are my 1's and these are my 2's. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So -5 minus -8 is 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. So again, 3/4 is not 4/5. So that's out. Down to C. I'm going to label them again. X and Y. These are my 1's. These are my 2's. y2 minus y1. x2 minus x1. -5 minus -1 is -4. 10 minus 5 is 5. That's the same. That's our answer. If you feel like you need to check this one, you can check that one just to make sure, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. Number 2, identify the slope and y-intercept of the following equation. Y equals -4 over 5x minus 7. So remember, in our equations, that's the format. This is always the slope, and this is always the y-intercept. So it's literally just asking you to identify those pieces. So the number next to my x is always my slope. So my slope is -4/5. And my y is always the extra, whether it's being added or subtracted. It's whatever number comes extra. So that would be the -7. Number 3, the two right triangles are shown below. Which triangle does not represent how A and B can be placed on a coordinate plane? So when two triangles are on a coordinate plane, the longest side of the triangle, which would be the slanted diagonal side, or the side that's right across from the right angle, those two have to be the same. Okay, they have to both be laying on the slope line for us to know that the slope is the same. So that's what we're looking for. We want that longest side on both triangles to be laying on the same line. So on A, slanted, that one works, so that's not going to be our answer. On B, there's my slanted side. There's my slanted side. actually, that would be our answer. That one doesn't work, so that would be our answer. And just to double check, let's look at the other ones. I've got B, the slanted side is on the line, and A, the slanted side is on the same line, and D, our slanted sides are both laying on the same slope line, so those work. Number 4, slope and y-intercept on a graph. So the first thing you want to find is the y-intercept because that's the easiest to identify. So our slope line crosses the y-intercept at 4. So it crosses right here. Okay, so I already know that my y-intercept is 4. So I can go ahead and eliminate A and I can eliminate D. Now to find the slope, I can use that point that I just found, the y-intercept, which is 0, 4. So then I just need one more point, and I'm going to pick this one up top, which is at 2, 8. So now I want to label the points I just wrote down. I have x and y, x and y. These are my 1s, these are my 2s. So y2, which was 8, minus y1, which was 4, on top of x2, which is 2, minus x1, which was 0. So 8 minus 4 is 4. 2 minus 0 is 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that would be C. 5, what is the slope of the line shown in the graph? So we're just looking for the slope, not the y-intercept. So I'm going to make my point where my numbers will line up. So there's a number 1 here. So this point would be, this point would be at 140. And just to be sure, I'm going to go ahead and use the formula and make another point at 2 and 80. And I'm going to label those x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug that into my formula. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 80 minus 40 is 40. 2 minus 1 is 1. So my slope is 40. On the table, we're looking for the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm going to find the slope first because I don't have 0 on this table, so it's going to be kind of difficult to find the y-intercept without the slope. I'm going to use the first 2 points because they're smaller and they're both positive. I've got my x and y, x and y. These are my 1s, these are my 2s, and then I'm going to plug into that formula. So y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So 9 minus 5 is 4. 11 minus 3 is 8, which would reduce down to 1/2. So my slope is 1/2. So I can eliminate B and I can eliminate D. Now for the y-intercept, there's 2 things you can do. You can work backwards from what they gave you in the table, which was 3 and 5. We can work all the way back by subtracting that slope until we match up with 0. That's one way. The second way is when they give you these 2 points, one of them says negative 15, 0, and one of them says 0, 3.5. If it's the y-intercept, we have to have a value for y. So A cannot be correct because they give an x value of 15 and nothing for the y value. Our x value has to be 0 and there has to be a value there. So even without going back in the table, it would have to be C. Number 7 is just asking for the slope. So I'm going to use these first 2, xy, xy. So 68 minus 50, subtracting my y's on top of my x's. So 68 minus 50 is 18. 2 minus 1 is 1. And there's only one that says the slope is 18. Find the slope of the line that passes through A and B. So we're just looking for slope again. Label the points that they give you. It's always x, y, x, y. The first group is the 1s, second group is the 2s. And then use that formula. So -6 minus 6, -4 minus 2, -6 minus 6 is -12, -4 minus 2 is -6. And when I divide those two, I get a +2. And there's only one answer choice that has that. On number 9, the algebra tiles show a model for an equation. What makes the value of n true? This just means we're going to solve our equation. And you can pretend like these are x's. It doesn't matter what letters those are your variables. And so I'm going to write it like I would write an equation. So I have 2 x's, so I would write 2x. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers, and they all have a negative sign in front. So that means I'm going to write minus or -7. The bar in the middle means equals. And on the right side, there's 3 letter bars. So I'm going to say 3x, and there's only 3 numbers, but they have a negative sign in front. So -3. So then we would solve like you would solve any regular equation like that. I'm going to box in everything with the sign that comes right before it. And I'm going to move one of my numbers first. I'm going to move -7. So since it's negative, I'm going to do the opposite and add 7. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Okay, so that's +4, and then I'm going to bring down everything else that I didn't just use. So that would be 3x, the 7 is canceled, the 2x, and now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to rebox everything with the sign in front so I don't miss something. And there's only one thing I can move now that we've got a 2-step equation. I can't move the 2x because it's by itself. I can't move the 4 because it wouldn't go with the 2 because there's not an x at the end. So the only thing I can move is this 3x. And there's no sign, so that just means it's positive. So I'm going to do the opposite of positive or plus and subtract 3x, which gives me a -1x, and then the only thing left over here is 4. So you can either just shoot that negative across, or technically the last step is to divide. So if you're dividing 4 by -1, you get a -4. And I'm pretty sure that was D. I think it just didn't print on the paper, but on Schoology, I'm pretty sure it's D.